are commenting, I'm probably not going to be able to see them this go around because I don't have the little window that's popped up off to the side. But anyhow, all that to say, today I wanted to talk to you all about how to build an effective exercise routine, because I do believe that there's a lot of confusion and misinformation out there when it comes to what an effective exercise routine looks like for each person. And so first things first, let's talk about I would say the first steps of creating an effective exercise routine for you. Man, if I could just talk today, that would be great. Also, I do want to shout out to those of you who are on the email list and you are patient with me as I'm learning to use a different email list. I sent an email out about this call yesterday, and I think it auto-populated my name into the email that I sent to everybody. So that's really cool. I'm glad everyone was addressed as Angela yesterday, but I'm trying to learn and figure this out. So thank you to those of you who are being patient and bear with me as I figure out this new system, because I just switched over from another one. So a little bit of kinks to work out. I'm human. I make errors as well. So anyways, effective exercise routine. So first things first, we want to be realistic with our time constraints and what we will realistically be able to stick to, right? So if we start an exercise routine and we're like, we're going to go 6 or 7 days a week, let's be honest with ourselves. If we are going 0 days a week right now, are we really going to go 6, 7, 5 days a week and stay consistent with it? Probably not. So my recommendation for any client that comes in is to do anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. That would be a reasonable goal. And those who are maybe busier and have crazier routines and schedules, or maybe just so new to this, you might want to start with 3 days a week. 3 is so doable compared to 5, 6, 7 days a week. And that's not to say that you may want to still show up at the gym for those many days a week, or at your whatever your workout routine is for those many days, but sub out the exercise for something else. You can do stretching, you can do mobility, you can do yoga, you can do light cardio. If you're just trying to build a habit of showing up, it's okay to go that many days a week, but I wouldn't go 5, 6, 7 days a week and go super hard out the gate. That's probably not realistic for most people. So be realistic with your time constraints. What does your life look like? This needs to work with your life for you to be consistent and successful in the journey. So number one, time constraints. What do those look like? Are you a 3-day person, 4-day person? Secondly, what is your ultimate goal, right? Because everybody has a different goal in mind when they start a journey, whether it's some people want to just build muscle tissue. They want to get big and strong. Some people are looking to build strength only, which doesn't necessarily mean bigger muscle tissue. They kind of come hand in hand, but not necessarily. There's 2 different degrees of training for that. Some people want to build their endurance. Maybe they're more of an endurance athlete and they're trying to improve distance or their ability to withstand certain paces for a longer period of time. Some people are just trying to improve their cardiovascular stamina. Some people want to be more flexible. What is the ultimate goal of yours? Because that's going to determine what kind of focus you want to put on your workouts. When it comes to what I'm mainly going to talk about, it's probably going to be mostly related to strength, muscle tissue growth, a little bit of endurance within strength and muscle tissue growth. So outside of that, running, that's a whole nother topic we could save for another day. I could go over those another time, but we're going to focus more on strength training, weight training, that kind of thing. Third, what do we want to focus on? Where are you going to train? Are you going to be training at home? Are you going to be training at the gym, right? Because that matters. That's going to depend on how we set up the workouts. That's going to depend on what time of the day you plan on doing your workouts. And I think these things are important to think about ahead of time, because if you start to build that idea in your mind and visualize, this is how many days I'm going to go, this is when I'm going to go do the thing, it makes easing into the process a lot easier, right? It makes staying consistent with those things a lot easier. You've set this expectation in your mind, you've built this routine in your mind, and now we got to show up and do the things. So where are you going to train? Home, gym, there's going to be different equipment in different scenarios. What does that look like for you? 4, what do you enjoy? And now This is a tricky one because there's going to be things we don't enjoy. Some people don't enjoy working out at all, especially in the beginning. They're like, I don't enjoy any of it. That's okay. You don't necessarily have to love it to understand the benefits of it. But some people do have things they tend to enjoy a little bit more. And it is very important to make sure you involve the things you enjoy in what you're doing. Because let's say you're someone who absolutely hates running, and you sign up with a coach that's telling you to run every day. I'm pretty sure you're going to be miserable. And I do not recommend you do something like running if you hate it. I don't recommend it. It's unnecessary if it's not something that you enjoy. If you ask me about strength training and weight training, of course, I'm going to tell you to some capacity, yes. I think everybody really needs to utilize that in their life too. It doesn't have to be like what I do necessarily, because I know what I do is very different than what someone else may like to do. But some degree of strength training is so beneficial for your overall health. And if that's maybe not your most favorite, which I promise you could change over time. But anyways, if that's not your most favorite, you can incorporate the things you do enjoy. If you like yoga, if you like running, if you like walking, if you like the elliptical or riding a bike, you can incorporate those things into it. You can find a way to mesh those things so it's an enjoyable routine for you, right? And then of course, creating a structure for your routine. That is super, super, super important. And we're going to go over this a little bit more in depth next. One thing I really want to talk about is how random workouts, and I know I'm probably going to get a little hate for this, but I'm going to stand very strong and true to my word on this, because this is 100%. If you talk to any trainer that's done this for quite some time, and listen, I look up to a lot of amazing trainers. I follow a lot of them. I want to be like them. I'm learning from them. I don't want to be starting at the bottom and being stuck at the bottom because I'm not willing to listen and learn from those who've done this for many, many years. Random workouts will work up to a certain point, but at a certain point, our body will adapt to that stimulus you're placing on it, the demands you're placing on it. It's going to adapt to the random workouts. And after a certain period of time, you're going to plateau, and you're maybe no longer going to see the progress you want to see. You may end up a little bit frustrated. You may end up a little bit burnt out. And this is where having structure in your training is going to help you work smarter and not harder. And I'm not here to like bash on different types of training. There are benefits to doing things such as group classes, like Orange Theory, F45. Every time I say CrossFit, I get a lot of bash for this one, but CrossFit to some degree is random. If you don't show up consistently and do the same workouts over a period of time and structure and periodize them, it's randomized, and you're going to have a point where you either reach burnout, injury, or plateau. One of those things is going to happen. So having structure is very important. And you guys, I follow a lot of trainers. So I follow trainers who do CrossFit style workouts, but they still have structure to their workouts. So they see progress, because they understand that if you just do random stuff all the time, it doesn't get you, it only gets you so far. Your body adapts to that. Your body's smart. Our bodies are so smart. They adapt to the things we do to them. So that being said, when it comes to structure with your workouts, over time, you need to have different training styles and training blocks. And this can be implemented a little bit differently. There's different types of training styles out there, but just for like a general understanding of what that could look like. Initially, it could look like, okay, maybe block number 1, and this could be someone with like an entry level, maybe just starting out with health and fitness. Maybe block number 1 is going to look like, I don't know, an endurance focused program. So what that means is your muscles are able to withstand fatigue. You're going to do higher rep ranges, shorter rest periods, maybe a little bit circuit style workouts in the first block. Let's say that's block number 1. And the blocks are going to be anywhere from, I would say, 4 weeks to, I think, up to 16 weeks you can do, but 16 weeks gets a little bit boring if you ask me. So we tend to, in our coaching, spice things up like 4 to 6, every 4 to 6 weeks, just depends on the person. But you want a nice chunk of time at that training level so that your body adapts. It has time to learn and grow from it. And then once it adapts, it's time to shift the focus a little bit, right? So then the next training block would maybe look like hypertrophy focused. And what that means is purely muscle growth. We're trying to grow the muscle tissue. That's a middle of the ground rep range. So hypertrophy typically is known as like 6 to 12 reps, but completely honest here, true transparency, you can achieve hypertrophy with lighter weights, higher reps. It's just like, who wants to spend that much time repping things out until their muscles are super fatigued? I don't want to go to 30 reps every single time. It takes up a lot of your time. But hypertrophy just essentially means we're doing high volume workouts. So whether it's high weights and middle of the road reps, or maybe you're doing higher reps and middle of the road weights until your muscles are almost at failure, with longer rest periods. Okay. And we're going to probably see workouts, 3 to 5 days a week when we're in a hypertrophy phase. But in that block, that's purely going to be focused on muscle growth. That's a different stimulus than the endurance, which is working on more like slow twitch fibers. So we're working different muscle fibers, and it's just a different training stimulus. Now you would, again, stay in that block anywhere from 4 to 16 weeks. Again, 16 weeks is kind of long. Some people will have plateaus and adaptations prior to that. So 4 weeks is really short. If you can handle 8 weeks of it, you're probably going to get the most out of it. But 4 weeks is a good, I would say, low threshold to change things up. Then moving into another training block, maybe that's a strength focus. So that's your muscle's ability to just pull a bunch of weight. That's going to be low reps. That's like 1 to 5 reps, really long rest periods. And this is where people have the hardest time with the training. When I'm in the gym, I see a lot of people doing maybe hypertrophy or strength focused workouts, but their rest times are just not long enough to actually see the progress they need to for those muscles to turn over and do what you're asking them to do. So long rest periods when we're doing strength focus. So again, you would stay in this block, maybe 4 to 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever that looks like for you. And then maybe switch into another block. And you can switch between all of these. There's power focus you could do, which would be like a mix of strength and endurance. And you're going to see a lot of like hit movements in a power block. It's just speed and strength combined in long rest periods as well. Could be shorter rest periods, but that's less likely when it comes to HIIT training. But essentially the goal is to change the stimulus over time, not dramatically. We don't want to change it every single week, because every week is not enough time for your central nervous system to kind of adapt to these movements, but changing it up enough to where when your body starts to adapt, you're like, okay, new training focus. Now, come on, body, let's grow. Let's do the thing we want to. That's where the muscle confusion term came in. I think a lot of people have heard that and maybe took that as we got to go do something different every single time, which is not true. Initial phase, I think they say it's about 2 weeks for our body to really start to understand a movement and to stimulate the central nervous system and muscles to respond in the way you want it to. And then after that point is where we can really maximize the progress. So 2 weeks to adjust, and then week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on, you're going to really start to maximize your growth and progress in that movement, which is why changing it up too frequently could actually hinder progress, because just when you're starting to get that movement down, you're changing it up. Okay. That being said, you don't have to always do like this training block is only endurance focused, this one's only hypertrophy. It's okay to have training blocks that has like varying stimulus in it, as long as you are changing that up somehow over a period of time. I can give you a great example, like in my current training that I am following, it was developed by powerlifters, but it's not just for powerlifters. A lot of athletes use this, which is why I ended up going into this training method. And they find that they come out with less risk for injury. They are still very strong, but they don't get super big like a bodybuilding, because the focus isn't bodybuilding focus. Bodybuilding is very hypertrophy, which a lot of people I think when you're starting strength training, that's what's going to happen. You guys have to work really hard to get your muscles that big. That's all I'm going to say. But anyhow, conjugate training is what I'm currently following. And in the blocks of training that I am in, I'm 4 days a week. I have 2 very heavy lift days and 2 dynamic days, which is basically a built-in like deload, or which means I'm taking lighter weights, but maybe I'm working on speed or some other form of training in those days. So I have 2 heavy lift days, 2 almost deload dynamic days. Not to say I don't lift heavy, I do lift heavy, but it's different. It's a different stimulus in these 2 days. And that is meant to kind of give my body a break, but also I'm still building on that foundation over time. And it changes up. I would say, I think that my blocks are somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks, it seems. I haven't quite figured it out. My coach knows all the details of conjugate. I am not the conjugate pro, but I think it's every 6 or 8 weeks or so. It seems like the core focus changes up. So I do a lot of the same movements over and over and over again, but allows me to grow in those movement patterns. So that being said, I know that sometimes building a training program and following the same things over time can feel boring. But when it feels boring like that, and maybe you worked at it for only 2 weeks, just know you're right on the brink of actually making progress in those workouts, which will then in turn help you in whatever your goal is: fat loss, building strength, building muscle tissue, maybe even building your endurance. You're right on the edge of it, but just don't change it up so often. Okay. I know some people don't love the different styles of training too. So for example, if you're a bodybuilder, a lot of bodybuilders will live in the hypertrophy phase. The issue with that is that high volume is risk for injury, just like any other training. If you stay only in running, if you stay only in swimming, or you know what I mean? If you are only doing your sport, but you never dabble in the other training modalities, you're high risk for injury. So that is the one thing that I would highly recommend you stay away from. I would make sure you're adding in the mobility, adding in some of the power moves and strength moves as well. So to add to this, how could you also challenge yourself over time? And this is what bodybuilders do: progressive overload. So progressive overload over their training blocks is what's allowing them to challenge their muscle tissue and continue to see growth. So that looks like increasing your reps. Maybe if you're doing 6 to 8 reps, now you're going to do 8 to 10 reps. Increasing the amount of sets you're doing. Maybe you were doing only 3 sets before, now you're going to do 4 to 5 sets. Slowing down that movement. So maybe before you were doing a tempo of 1 1 1, but you're going to instead go, or not 1 1, sorry, you were going to do 2 1 1. Now you're going to do 3. So 3 seconds down, 1 2 3, or 5 seconds down. You're going to make it nice and slow, and then you're going to explode up. So slowing the movement or the eccentric down will really, really stimulate the muscle tissue growth. Decreasing rest times can be a way to progressively overload. Doing pauses, holds, and increasing weight over time. Those are all ways to challenge yourself over different training blocks. So this might sound like a bunch of gibberish, I'm understanding. But as a coach and as someone who's done this, it makes a lot of sense in my mind. But when you come into building your own program, I get it. It's a lot to take on. So they feel overwhelming. Having solid structure in your training program is going to take a lot of pressure off of you, wondering if you're doing the right thing for your progress, if it's working. It's going to help prevent you from, if you're at the gym walking around lost. So I personally would recommend, and you can do this with whoever you want to, I would recommend initially, if you're new, follow some sort of structured program over a period of time to really start to see the patterns and see how that works. If you guys want, we do also have a workout guide that you can refer to. I don't think it necessarily shows you how to periodize, but at least gives you an idea how to start out. We can send that to you, and you can just shoot a comment below. But I would definitely recommend follow some sort of program. It helps to give you the guidance, because I think a lot of people think they put so much pressure on themselves to build these programs because you can, right? Yeah, you can do anything. You can go Google the internet all you want, but you might come out more confused than anything. Sometimes it's just worth it to have someone else do it for you. There's a lot of really awesome programmers, a lot of coaches out there that do amazing jobs at this. So again, you don't have to hit us up for that, but I would highly recommend you start there. But anyways, as a rough draft, just for you to kind of get an idea how to begin, how many days you're going to go, right? Number 1, how many days you're going to go? Number 2, what did I say number 2 was? What's your ultimate goal? Also, you want to think about how much time you're willing to dedicate to the workout, because some people are like, 30 minutes is all I got. Some people are like, I got an hour or more. That's great. Those things are going to definitely determine what kind of training you probably should lean into, right? If you only have 30 minutes left or 30 minutes to dedicate, you're probably going to want to do initially something that's maybe a little high rep, maybe lower rest periods. That might be the most bang for your buck. Or maximizing on certain moves that are going to give you the most and just getting rid of all the excess stuff, right? So picking movements. When it comes to picking movements, when I say the movements that are going to be the biggest bang for your buck and give you the most, it's going to be compound movements. And when I say compound movements, I do not mean combo movements. I don't mean squat to curl to shoulder press. That's not what I'm talking about. Those are, they have their place for burnout, or I would say for cardiovascular effects. But if you have any, if you want to build strength, if you want to build muscle tissue, you're going to want to do compound movements such as squats, such as deadlifts, different variations, bench press, shoulder press, pulling patterns, you know, anything that requires multiple muscles to work at one time, because you are working multiple muscles. That's why they're the biggest bang for your buck. If you're going to go do bicep curls, that's an accessory work. You're just working one muscle group, like mainly one muscle group. You're not going to get as much out of that as you would if you go do a bench press or lat pull downs or seated rows or any variation of rows, pull-ups, push-ups, again, any squats, any RDLs, hip thrusts, hinging patterns. Those are going to give you the most bang for your buck. So when you're building a workout routine, whether it's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days a week, I would highly recommend you have 1 to 2 of those compound movements at a minimum in the very beginning of those workouts. You can make the remainder like a mix of accessory movements or compound movements. And these things are in our guide. I'm pretty sure Tony put all this in there. Accessory movements is literally, it's just working specific muscle groups. So tricep extensions, if you're doing tricep extensions, or bicep curls, leg extensions. Those are all very muscle focused movements, and they're great and they have a purpose. But if you don't have time for them, I wouldn't waste time on them. I would focus really heavily on the compound movements and getting good at those. Personally, that's my personal opinion on it. You're going to get the most bang for your buck if your time is limited. If you have a longer period of time to work with, still have those compound movements, and then you can mix more of those accessory movements in to see more growth a little bit more quickly, add that volume in, right? As a good rule of thumb too, I do like to say this, you want to have 2 pull movements or double the amount of volume of pull movements as you do push. And the reason being, and push is chest, triceps, and shoulders. Pull movements is back and biceps. Reason being, most of us in our life, we sit at desks or we have posture and we're like this. If you're constantly strengthening these muscles, these push muscles, that's just going to make you go forward a little bit further. But we want to strengthen the posterior, right? And bring those shoulders back, because a lot of us actually do not use those muscles appropriately. We don't work them enough. And having double the pull volume or movements in your workouts, as opposed to chest, tricep, shoulders, is going to help you with posture, which in turn will help you with other things that you might be feeling, like back pain, knee pain, hip pain, like the whole chain is connected. Okay. So posture is very important, and doing double the pull as you do push will help a lot. Step number 5, I would say in all of this, or, oh, sorry, step number 4, I skipped this. In all of this is with the compound lifts, those big moves in the beginning. Highly recommend that if you can do lower reps and longer rest periods, especially ladies. If you have not done that before, you're going to get so much more progress out of that. That's something I've learned a lot in this journey, is a lot of us women tend to do circuit style. We tend to do stuff that gets our heart rate up. We get sweaty because it feels good. We get a good burn, and then we plateau and we're super frustrated. Why? What's wrong with us? Must be our hormones. You actually just need to change your training stimulus, and you need to attempt heavier weights, lower reps, and longer rest periods. And I mean 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3-minute rest periods. And it feels so awkward. I get it. And I'm not talking about jumping jacks in between these rest periods. No. You can maybe do a little pacing, light pacing. But what rest is rest. We need the muscles to turn over so you can challenge them in those movements again, and then repeat. And it's not to say you can never do circuit moves again. You can do circuit moves again, but it very much benefits you to cycle in and out of those. Okay. You're going to see so much more progress if you do that. As someone who came from Beachbody, because I did Beachbody, I did Lady Boss, then I did Beachbody, and now I'm here doing what I do. Lady Boss was mostly strength focused, but there was a lot of circuit. Beachbody was just a ton of circuit, tons of circuit, tons of cardio. I loved it though. I loved the feeling of the burn that I got. However, they started to bring out a couple other programs that had a little more strength focused. And I started doing those and I saw a little bit more progress. And then I got to the point where I was like making up my own workout, not making my, I was piecing together their programs because I knew what workout seemed to give me the best results. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this one and then I'm gonna do this one and I'm gonna do this one and this one. And I literally cycled through like the only two strength programs they had for a while. And I had the most progress I had ever seen while doing Beachbody with those two programs. And then of course it plateaued because there was no way I was going to be able to challenge myself enough with what I had at home, and going to the gym was cost friendly for me. So moving to the gym, I was able to increase my weights more outside of my little dumbbells I had, and I saw a lot more growth. So don't be afraid of challenging yourself. Heavy weights, long rest periods. I know some people are like, well, I don't want to get big muscles. Again, I cannot say this enough. It takes so long to get big muscles. You see guys out there, they bust their butt to try to get those big muscles, and they have an advantage over us women. Us women do not build muscle tissue quick. If you do, you are a genetic freak, or you're taking something that's encouraging it. But most women, it takes so many years and lots of eating, a lot of extra calories to get there, a lot of supplementation. I don't think I'm anywhere near like really big muscles. I mean, I have big muscles, but I've been working very hard at I lift really heavy weights to get to where I am, and I'm still nowhere near what I would consider like bulky. So ladies, please don't be afraid to pick up a freaking 20-pound, 30-pound, 40-pound, 50-pound dumbbell. It's not going to hurt you. In fact, it might do you far more good than you even realize. But anyways, back on track. So after you get the workouts kind of pieced together, and you're like, okay, I got this many compound lifts, I've got this many extra accessory workouts. You want to repeat those things again for probably 4 to 8 weeks. I'm going to say 8 weeks because I know people get bored. So you can continue to challenge yourself and grow in those movements before you spice things up again. Okay. We want to make sure we continue to challenge ourselves before we do a lot of change up, because you will plateau if you just do random stuff. I promise you. So workout wise, what I would recommend, depending on the days that you're working out, if you're doing 3 days a week, I would probably do 3 full body days. If you're doing 4 days a week, now a lot of people benefit most from full body days, but personally, I don't love full body days. I think it's because I feel like I'm sore every single day that I go to the gym. So I personally like what I have currently going on, which is 2 upper, 2 lower days. I do 4 days a week. Some people will do 5 days a week, and that might look a little bit different. That's like a bro split. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That could look anything like leg day 1, leg day 2, chest, tricep, shoulders, back, biceps, and then maybe you have a full body day, or maybe you have just another upper body day. You could do it even different. You could do like upper, lower, and then maybe your 5th day is a mobility day. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. That actually is probably way more beneficial for you. So, or maybe you have a little bit of core work, more core work on that day. It just depends. It depends on the time you have, how many days a week you're trying to go, what your goals are, and kind of what you like, what you want to implement into the training, because I think that matters a lot. So anyways, after 4 to 8 weeks, change things up, but not dramatic changes. You want to make sure you're doing sort of similar movements, but just change up maybe the rep ranges, the rest times. You can change the lifts ever so slightly, but remember, like, you don't want to go from doing squats to never doing squats again. You want to do something similar, some sort of squatting pattern or something similar to a squatting pattern to continue to support that lift that you worked really hard at. So I feel like this was clear as mud. But honestly, I can't tell you exactly how to build a workout without knowing you, without knowing what your schedule looks like, without knowing what you're working with, what your goals are, what stress you have in your life. These things are really important. And I think a lot of times people think there's like a one size fits all answer, and there's not. And that's why sometimes just showing up to like boot camp classes or random classes, it may not give you what you want in the long term. In the short term, it may feel good. It may be a little motivating in the beginning, but after a period of time, it's going to stop working for you. You're not going to, if you rely on the motivation from the groups, that long-term success is probably not going to hold and maintain, right? We have to learn how to find the benefits from exercise and internalize that and let that be the driver of why we're going. So that was a lot. If you have questions, because again, I can't see comments, I'll respond after this to the comments. If you don't have that home workout guide and you want to, just comment below, we can send that to you. I'm pretty sure it just has like it gives you examples of exercises you can plug into your day to build your workout routine. It kind of goes over what I just went over, and that way you can have somewhere to start. But if you want help with programming outside of coaching, you guys know we have different options. You don't have to be a one-on-one client with us. You can do group coaching, which is you get the workouts. We do the workouts for you. You don't have to think about it, right? We have programming only options. If you want coaching and you want programming only, talk to me. I'm thinking I'm going to add that in because that's been something a lot of people have asked for, even though nutrition is very important. If it's something someone really wants, I'd be willing to do it. So yeah, talk to us, let us know. But I hope this was at least somewhat helpful. I hope if anything you can take away from this, that strength training is not scary. You're not going to get huge. It takes a lot of effort to get to that point, and most people aren't even gonna get close. They're not even gonna get close enough. You'd have to be consistent for years and years and years on end to get to that point. And most people have trouble just showing up consistently week to week to week. So I wouldn't be afraid of that, especially in the beginning. Listen, muscle growth is intentional, right? Like you get to a point where you build a certain amount of muscle tissue. You just don't keep trying to build muscle tissue. Maintaining is so much easier. They say to maintain it, you have to do something like, I think it's super, super low, like 25%, it might even be less than that. 25% of the volume you normally do to just maintain muscle tissue. So maintenance is so much easier versus constantly trying to grow. So that being said, I think I'm going to hop off because I haven't had lunch yet and I make sure I eat something. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this was helpful. If you want the home workout guide, let us know. But otherwise, happy Wednesday.